Hi guys, this is Alex Tomaszewska on Way to Grow, my weekly Monday evening show. As soon as somebody jumps in, let me know if you can hear me. And and that's it. And if you're watching live or not live, doesn't really matter. I want you to tell me where you're watching from. And if you're watching it on a replay, just post hashtag replay so that I can answer your comments afterwards. If they're marked with a replay, then I can answer them. Hey guys, okay, so people are joining. I think you can hear me. Brilliant. Right, so this is my weekly show. It's held every Monday at 6 p.m. Central European Time. And every week I discuss a different topic on personal development. Hey Israel, perfect, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that you can hear me. And this week's topic I've decided to be courage. So I want to start with talking a little bit about what is courage. Mexico watching, brilliant. What is courage? So when you hear the word courage, usually what we think about is this kind of a hero, strong guy that saves lives, that risks his own life, usually to save others, people's lives, right? There's some physical pain usually involved. Or when we think about jobs that require courage, it's jobs like a firefighter, like soldiers, like policemen, etc., right? This is usually what comes to our mind as human beings when we think about courage. Is something else come to your mind when you hear courage? Let me know in the comment. But this is for most people. Right, so usually we kind of connect it to some kind of a physical threat or maybe injury or even death. But fortunately, the definition of courage is actually much broader. Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have the possibility to display courage on a daily basis and therefore to practice our courage, to train our courage. And I will be talking about how to train your courage in the later part of this show, right? So the definition of courage is very simple. Listen to this. It is the ability to do something that scares you. Let me say it one more time. It is the ability to do something that scares you. Now, the later part of this sentence is very important because it has to be scaring you and not someone else. How does that relate to reality of what courage is? Let's say there's a man who is climbing the Empire State Building, right? And he's got 1,000 of spectators, or even more, throughout the world. Probably, there's people filming him and staring there in awe. And they all think that he must be very brave, and it must have taken a lot of courage from him to do that, to climb the Empire State Building, right? And they think that because it would scare the shit out of them. Because it would be very brave of them to climb the Empire State Building. But the reality, very often for that kind of person, would be he is a kind of a thrill seeker, an adrenaline addict. And actually he enjoys the adrenaline, the thrill of climbing up the Empire State Building. And also he probably enjoys having all these spectators. So it really is much more about adrenaline, the adrenaline rush for him, than about courage. So we have two sides here, right? On one side, we've got the spectators for whom it's scary to climb the Empire State Building. And on the other hand, yeah, that too. If they catch him, he would be arrested. On the other hand, we've got him. And it doesn't really matter what these people think about him, if he's brave or not. Because if it doesn't scare him to climb the Empire State Building, he is not really showing courage. This is not a courageous act for him. So it's very important to understand that courage is held within the person who performs this act, this brave, courageous act. It doesn't matter what other people think about it. Like, courage is a very personal experience, actually. But it works both ways. So that's the good side of it, right? So, for example, if you're the kind of person who is afraid of the dentist, a very common fear, right? A lot of us are afraid of the dentist. Show me in the comments, write what you're afraid of. Like, in general, or right now, what is the thing that you're afraid of doing and you don't have the courage to do? Or if you actually managed to gather the courage and do something that was really scary for you, let us know in the comments. You know, I love a good story. If you know me, you know that. Let me know. Right, so let's say you are afraid of the dentist. And you have this friend who is not afraid of going to the dentist, but you are scared. You're terrified, you're so scared that you have been postponing this visit for years. That's what we do with dentists, right? So let's say you have a friend who's not really afraid, and he or she is telling you, why don't you just go? I mean, people do it every day. And you don't have to be this afraid because of all the new equipment and all the new sedatives present in the market. And it really is not that scary. And I don't know what you're afraid of. This is what your friend who's not afraid of the dentist is telling you, right? But the thing is that you are afraid of the dentist. And once you go, you have done the thing that was scaring you. And this is what courage is all about, doing the thing that was scaring you. So it doesn't really matter if your friend is not afraid, if your friend is telling you it's not scary. What matters, and I want you to really remember that and understand it, what matters is that it was important for you and you made yourself grow through going through that experience that scared you. And that's the most important thing about it. So don't ever let anybody get you into thinking that something that you do that is scaring you is not worth your celebration. It's not worth you being proud of yourself. It's not worth you feeling awesome because you did it. This is your given right. Feel good about the acts of courage that you do. So we have seen now these two sides, right? So everybody has their own experiences, everybody has their own fears. We are all very unique. And I want to tell you, until you are, nobody knows how you feel. It is physically impossible to know how you exactly feel, right? And how scared you are of something. So don't let people trick you into thinking otherwise. And I want to tell you a story from my life, a story about courage. So about 9 years ago, I think it was about 9 years ago, I was in San Francisco, and I had the opportunity to do skydiving over there, which is, hey Mandy, good to see you. So I had the opportunity to do skydiving, which is basically jumping off of plane, and then you're free falling up until the level when you cannot free fall anymore and the parachute has to open. And I thought to myself, wow, that sounds like fun. I'm gonna do it, you know, because there's these possibilities. So this is the only thought that was in my head, was like, this is fun, this is exciting, awesome. And I wasn't scared at all. But when I was putting on my green jumpsuit, I wasn't scared of the jump. But as I was approaching the plane, the small plane, and as I was walking up the stairs, my legs started to feel heavy, and suddenly, and very unexpectedly, I felt this rush of fear. I felt this rush of fear that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't feeling that beforehand. And I got so scared within the 15 minutes that the plane goes up that I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I can do it. And I was just, no, I can't do it. But the thing with these planes is they usually take on a couple members, a couple people to do the jump with you. So there was like maybe 10 of us over there on the plane, you know, all the people that paid for the jump. And the way the plane is organized, you sit on a bench. It's a narrow bench, and you have the bench is between your knees, your legs. And you sit one after the other, so one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And I was, you know, the last one to board the plane, so I was also the first one to jump. Now, another thing about how these planes are organized is that there's, while you're jumping, there's a line that's connecting you to the inside of the plane. And these lines are organized in the same manner that people sit. So my line was the first one, and then on the rope that was connecting the lines were all the other lines of all the other people, which basically meant that if I didn't jump, none of these people who were sitting out there, exciting, probably, I don't know, because I have no recollection of this. I was so stressed. None of them would be able to even jump out of the plane. So not only was I suddenly very stressed and afraid, I also had this burden of having all these people who were excited and wanted to do the jump, not being able to do the jump if I don't jump. So it was a lot of pressure on me. And actually that was the only reason why I did the jump. So the only reason was that because there were other people waiting, and other people oftentimes will allow us to do the act of courage, which otherwise we wouldn't do. That's why I love other people. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. And by the way, on that plane, there was the crew who was filming, who was making a short interview with all the participants before the jump. And I saw that movie afterwards, after I landed that. And my eyes were just, I've never seen myself so scared. I have no recollection of this because of the stress. And my eyes were like the size of half my face, basically. So I was really, you know, I was really hoping for brown pants, but they were green, if you know what I'm saying, okay? Let me know in the comments, by the way, what is the scariest thing that you've ever done? This will be so much fun if you share your story of what is the scariest thing that you've ever done. I think this might be mine. I'm not sure, but it might be it. Anyway, it's serving us here. So, okay, so I decided I'm going to go for the jump because there's all these people waiting. So I got up. And it's a tandem jump. So when you're jumping for the first time, you're doing it with an instructor, and he's tied up with you. And they didn't tell me, but the scariest part of the jump, and I never thought of that, is when you're actually standing in the door of the plane, you have to make a step into nothing. And we are not used to that as human beings, because whenever we make a step into nothing, we tend to kind of take on this position of falling, and you're not supposed to do that, because then you will start rotating in the air. So you actually have to assume the proper position just after you take the step out of the plane. And that was the hardest part of the whole jump, taking this step. Now, the thing is that you have to do it on your own. Like, you have to take the step on your own. The instructor that's standing behind you, he will not push you. He's just waiting there for you to take the steps, and you're feeling the pressure of other people because the plane is small and it has a limited amount of fuel and blah, 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 all that stuff, right? Anyways, somehow, I don't know how I decided to take the step, and, you know, it was fun from there. But the reason why I'm telling you this story is that you never know how much courage something takes for someone. Like, before taking the jump, before making the jump, I had no idea it would even take courage from me. So we should never judge others or even ourselves about how difficult and how brave something was for somebody. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is only in you. And anytime you do something brave, you can have like your bravery or courage journal, and you can write stuff down. I was courage because I did this and this and this. And these can be very, very small things. And now these very small things are very important because, like I said in the beginning, courage is often not about physical pain. It's not about physicality at all. It's not about risking your lives. There's different types of courage, which I will get to in a second. So, but first I want to tell you what happens to our body so that we know that we did something courageous, right? So when we're doing a brave, courageous act, first of all, the first thing that needs to happen, we need to be scared of it. That is in the definition of courage, right? So you need to feel fear of it. And let's say you are afraid of public speaking, another very common fear. Let me know in the comments, what is your fear? What are you afraid of and what you lack courage in, or what you have done that's taken your courage and you're very, very proud of it. Even if it was a couple years ago or many years ago, I love to hear a story and I'd like you to tell that story. Right, so what happens to our bodies when we act courageously? Well, first of all, we're afraid. So when we feel fear, when we sense fear, we have all these physical symptoms, like pit stains, or going red in the face. Let's say if you're afraid of public speaking, for example, your face might go red. You may go speechless. Your legs may disobey you and say, no, okay, we're not going up that stage, and suddenly you cannot move. This is what happens. Or else, for example, your mind goes blank, and the thing that you've been practicing for weeks and weeks or months, suddenly you have no recollection of, and you have no idea what you're going to say. Or your hands start shaking, trembling, or your voice, etc., right? These are all the physical symptoms. So they tell us, hey, we are afraid, right? This is what happens before the courageous act. And then you're making the decision. You're either making the decision to not do it, or you're making the brave decision to go for it anyway, to do it anyway. And that is what takes courage. That's what takes courage. If you remember a moment when you made a decision like that in your life, let me know in the comments. What was that and how did it feel to make this decision that you're able to do it? So what happens afterwards to our bodies? Let's say you were afraid of public speaking and you did give this big presentation or public performance, right? How do you feel then? How do you feel? You feel lightweight. You feel as if a lot of weight has been lifted up from your shoulders. You feel proud of yourself. Proud of yourself. Sometimes you may even feel fearless or limitless. And you feel like you've taken your life to the next level, like you've taken the next step, and no one can take that away from you. This is what I want to underline again. No one can take that away from you. Even if they say, this wasn't really such a big deal. For you, trust me, it was a big deal, and it's worth taking a note in your courage journal. I did this and this and that. Now, public presentations are a big thing. They don't happen every day. But we can practice courage to get to a point in which we are actually able to make a big step, whatever that be. Like I said, everybody is different. For everybody, courage means something else. Before I go to the courage types, and there will be examples of what courage is so that you can use them also in your real life and start seeing how your life actually handles you, opportunities to be courageous on a silver platter, I want to tell you why courage is important. If you know me, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I say courage is a muscle. And what do muscles give us? They give us strength. They give us resilience. They allow us to do more, to lift more than other people who don't have these muscles, right? And courage is the thing that allows us to grow. If you want to grow as a business owner, very important for the business owners to have courage. If you don't have the courage to grow your business, It's going to go stagnant and then possibly die. So it's extremely important for a business owner to practice their courage, right? For other people as well, of course. Personal development. Now, personal development is all about change. And change is scary. And getting over scary things is what courage is about. That's why it's extremely important to train your courage, to train this muscle of courage. And you do that by taking small steps, by training your courage in your daily life. So you can train your courage in one of the areas that I'm going to be talking about, and it's going to grow in another area. And that's how you become more and more courageous. It's a step-by-step process that requires consistency. So what are the types of courage? First of all, we've got the physical courage, which is connected to the risk of physical pain, of losing your life, of some kind of an injury, right? And I've talked about it already a little bit. But in that category, there's also, for example, a cancer patient who makes a decision to undergo chemotherapy. Now, if that's something that he's afraid of, that means it's a courageous act. Or a mother that's protecting her child from a wild animal. That also takes physical courage, because there's a physical danger in there. And probably, there's not so many opportunities in our life to display our courage in those areas, right? But these other areas, they happen to occur much more often, and we can practice our courage in those areas, which is also what most of us really want to do. So you don't necessarily want to be able to save lives and jump into fire, no, but maybe you want to be able to give public speeches, right? So the next type of courage is the social courage, which means it is connected with the risk of being embarrassed, of being misunderstood, of being left out, and of not being respected, for example. So this is the internal fear that we fear from other people. And here I want to tell you another story. I was talking to a friend a while ago, and she told me this story that happens to us, to all of us, every day, probably. A lot of times to women, actually, too. So if you're a man, if you're watching this, this is what is happening in a woman's head, and possibly also in a male head. I don't know. But the story is this. So she tells me, Alex, I went to the doctor's office the other day with my kid, and there were other women with their kids in there, and there was a lot of us in there. And I was sitting on my chair, and it was pretty hot in there. So I really wanted to open the window. But you know what? I didn't have the courage to get up and open that window, because I didn't want to risk what they were going to tell me about that after I did that. So I didn't do it. So I didn't have the courage to do it. And then a man walks in. He sits down and he opens the window immediately. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I am such a wuss. Because also this lady who was sitting next to me, she thanked him and she told him, you know what? I didn't have the courage to do that. Now this is a story about a social courage. And you see how women act and how men act in different situations as well, right? So another type of courage is the emotional courage, which is the will to feel both the negative and the positive feelings. How often are we escaping a conversation, avoiding a conversation that can have some negative consequences that might make us cry, or another situation which might make us cry? How often do we do that? How often do we not show our feelings or our emotions to other people. Like if you're a man, you're afraid to ask somebody out because you're afraid your feelings or emotions are going to get hurt, right? We avoid that on a daily basis. How often do we do something against ourselves just to protect ourselves from being hurt emotionally? Think about it. When you start thinking about it, you will see that you do it much, much often than you ever thought. The next type is intellectual courage, which is the courage to stand by your idea. Now, scientists throughout ages did that. They were underappreciated. Nobody believed them. When people thought the earth was flat, that nobody believed that it was round, right? But sticking to your idea, even though the society doesn't agree with you, that's intellectual courage. And also, it has a couple other angles which are really interesting. So, for example, being open to other people's ideas and opinions is intellectual courage. Now, have you ever met this person who seems arrogant because they only talk and they never listen? They never listen because they are afraid you're going to tell them they're wrong. They lack intellectual courage on that level. The next type of courage is, this is about, my connection went down for a second. And the moral courage is the courage to do the right thing. The courage to do the right thing. Now that is a big one, right? Because the thing is, if you don't do the right thing and you thought you were able to do it, usually this is around some big stuff. And this, if you don't show the courage in these kind of situations, moral situations, this feeling of guilt may stick around with you for a very, very long time. So it's worth it to actually be courageous and do the right thing when an opportunity shows. So now that you